That is Donald Trump's legal team fights among themselves about just how bad things are for their client. The ex-president did receive a favorable ruling from the federal judge overseeing the Mar-a-Lago document case. Neil foreshadowed this a little bit for us. That's Judge Eileen Cannon, a 2020 Trump appointee. She spared Trump's team from having to back up in court his public rants that the FBI framed him, that they planted evidence. It's something he can't tweet, but he posts on his own thing. Cannon overruled an order by the special master, Judge Dearie. She appointed Dearie at Trump's request. He was Trump's pick, and his legal team was supposed to submit a sworn statement next week about whether they agree with the FBI's inventory list of the documents that were found at his home. If they agree, then nothing could have been planted. Cannon then intervenes and effectively spared them from this put up or shut up moment, again, giving the ex-president a lifeline, giving him exactly what he wants, and proving how frail the rule of law in this country is at this hour. Let's bring into our conversation former RNC chairman and MSNBC contributor Michael Steele. Neil is still here. Michael Steele, she's sort of the gift that keeps giving. You've now got this great reporting from the Washington Post that even on Trump's legal team, there's great discomfort with how he's conducting himself as a client facing a very grave risk of indictment and trial based on that reporting. And yet he gets this affirmation in the rulings from his appointee, Judge Cannon.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be surprised by that. I think what surprised folks was the fact that she would be willing to kind of come back and dip back into that pool after the special master was selected and it wasn't starting to go their way. So you just kind of figure, all right, well, I'm not going to show too much of a political hand here. But that's the nature of a number of these judges. We have to keep in mind, who are these individuals? I mean, we reported on this air, and you covered as well in depth the kinds of judges that were being selected by the Trump team, many of whom had no bench experience, many of whom were very clearly more politically aligned than judicially aligned in this narrative. So it's a concerning issue. The 11th Circuit has made it very clear they thought the judge was off base. But clearly that wasn't enough, Nicole, because she's gone back to the special master and said, how dare you tell Donald Trump to justify his position, to put up or shut up, as the saying goes, and has now rebuked him by saying, no, you don't have to do that, Donald Trump. You don't have to do what the special master that you picked, by the way, has asked you to do. That tells you how crazy all of this is and how perilous it is for our judicial system, and how every moment like this, Nicole, is one step further as the American people watch this, it augments their distrust of this system, where they see two justice systems, which a lot of us have already known to be there many times if you're a people of color. But now a whole lot of white folks are starting to see it as well, when their interests are, in the law is somehow subverted by an overriding political interest.
It's such an important and really a big point. I don't want to gloss over it. I do want to read some reporting about why this inventory list matters, why this is Trump's kryptonite. But I don't want to lose Michael's thought here with you, Neil. The idea that it was Trump's move to have a special master. Judge Dearie was Trump's pick to be the special master if his move worked. So his move worked. His pick was selected, was acquiesced to by the Justice Department, and she's still sticking her feet in and nudging it to his side of the scale. What do you think is going on?
Well, I mean, to me, Nicole, it's a wonder there hasn't been a kind of antimatter explosion between Judge Cannon and Special Master Dearie at this point. I mean, he's everything that her rulings aren't. He's been careful and wise and prudential, and her rulings have been erratic and unpersuasive, and they certainly appear unprincipled. Now, I think the most important thing to understand about yesterday is I don't think her ruling matters very much at the end. because the Court of Appeals has already said the most sensitive, the most important documents, the 100 or so highly classified and sensitive documents, the Justice Department can look at those and build a criminal prosecution on that. So to use the technical legal term, she was smacked down by the Court of Appeals when she tried to prevent the Justice Department from looking at that. And so the bottom line is Trump's already lost this legal battle. She can come in and try and tip the scales on his favor on the rest of the documents, but the rest of the documents is not the ball game. And so it's kind of like her ruling's kind of like a senator voting no after the 50th yes. It's irrelevant at this point. It's virtue signaling to, I suppose, Donald Trump, but I don't think that it's fundamentally going to matter. It might delay things a little bit, and that's certainly Trump's hope, but I don't think that yesterday's ruling, given what the Court of Appeals said, and, I understand Michael's concern about, certain Trump appointees, but remember that Court of Appeals decision was written by two of the three people on there were Trump appointees, and they just obliterated Donald Trump's arguments. They obliterated Judge Cannon's arguments. And so, this investigation is going to go forward. It's going forward right now, despite everything that Judge Cannon might try and do to stop it, because the Court of Appeals has said so. And I think one reason the Court of Appeals said so is Michael's really deep point. We can't have two systems of justice. Anyone else who would be accused of the kind of stuff that Trump did at Mar-a-Lago would be in jail in a heartbeat. And the idea that he's getting all sorts of special rights and privileges and a special master and this and that is ridiculous and absurd, but fine, so be it, as long as justice is done at the end of the day.
I just want to quickly read why this list of evidence and attesting to its accuracy matters in terms of Trump's legal exposure. Charlie Savage of The Times wrote this: if Trump acknowledges that the FBI took any documents marked classified from his personal office and storage room at Mar-a-Lago, as the inventory says, that would become evidence that could be used against him if he were later charged with defying a subpoena. It seems, Neil, as you're saying, if Dearie upholds this very central tenet to agreeing on what the evidence is and what the facts are, he will ultimately have to face the consequences of what he did.
No, exactly. And, it may be that, after Dearie makes his initial rulings, there'll be a period of delay and so on, and as she reviews them. But, one thing that's just bizarre about this episode is she asked Special Master Dearie, hey, find out what this inventory of information is and if it's accurate. And so Dearie followed her orders and said, hey, Trump, lawyers, tell me, was any information planted or not? Now she's come back and said, oh, no, don't do that. Don't ask that question. The very question she asked him to do. Why? Because Donald Trump's lawyers asked her to do something different, and she just went ahead and did it. These aren't the kinds of things, unfortunately, Nicole, that can be appealed. In general, there is a route to appeal. I'd be surprised if the Justice Department takes it, because the investigation can continue, as I said, on the most significant documents. But it really does look very bad for the judiciary to have this federal judge making these kinds of rulings, particularly after she's already been smacked down once.
Neil Katyal, thank you for joining us today. Michael Steele sticks around. Up next for us,